Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show Crosstalk. Well, Peter, looks like fake news strikes again. Yesterday, the Inspector General of the Department of Interior published a detailed report about the clearing of Lafayette Park last June. And this was a favorite media narrative for months and months and months. It's been going on for the past 12 months that the park was cleared violently, viciously by the feds in order to allow President Trump to go to the church and to do this photo op, with his Bible, and that this is a reflection of the utter brutality of the Trump administration. Just for the sake of a photo op, they use this force. It turns out that the park police had made that decision long before they knew anything at all about President Trump's visit to the church. And in fact, the reason they'd made that decision was that they needed to put some non-scale fencing in the park because the night before there had been extreme violence there, and even there was an attempt to burn down the church. So they had begun clearing the park long before they'd even heard anything about President Trump's plan. So yet another fake news bites the dust. Needless to say, there are no apologies, as with all the other fake news, like the Afghan bounties, Russiagate. They just shrug their shoulders. Oh well, we'll find some criminality and vileness on Trump's part at some point. But the damage has been done. So this is yet another sorry media spectacle. Because remember, all of the media, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, everybody ran with this story about this violent dispersal of the crowd just to allow Trump a photo op. So yet another disgraceful performance by the media.
I used to watch this program called Rising until the major hosts went off on their own. I think that's called Breaking Points now. What remains is not very interesting. However, on that program, after that happened, that event, and the way it was reported, the conservative talk show host and the progressive one, they always could have a give and take. That was the one time that they refused to talk about it. They just put their heads straight ahead, and now we're going to go to the next segment. They didn't debate it because people were so inflamed.
Right.
Okay, but this is how it works. Trump is a dictator, thus he had the park cleared. Okay, because that's you're working with an assumption instead of saying, why was the park cleared?
Right.
Okay, because when you put in the equation the answer that you want, then of course it makes sense. It makes perfect logical sense. Okay, and the report that came out talked about the scores and scores of injury on the part of law enforcement. I mean, these weren't, this wasn't kumbaya. These people weren't, Hare Krishna is walking around, okay? And this was violent, and the night before was very violent.
Very violent. Yep.
And unlike January 6th, they were prepared in Lafayette Park, okay?
Yes.
But this shows how the media has just destroyed itself. It's absolutely made itself utterly credible-less. They have no credibility left whatsoever. I mean, I don't know. I know you well enough now. I just go to certain news sources. I mean, I don't really need to waste my time on watching people tie themselves up into a pretzel trying to explain something which is obvious, is the nose on your face. Okay.
Right.
But this is an example of media failure because it's driven by ideology. And so, George, interestingly enough, will we ever get a clear picture of the Trump administration ever? I mean, every single step of the way. And this does not mean that George and I give it a clean bill of health. I was very critical of the Trump administration because he wasn't a populist. Right. He was a Jeb Bush character. That's what made me angry. Yes. All right. So, I mean, the perception that they generated in the media is just a shadow of what really happened.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And again, it's not, I mean, I don't know what you thought. I mean, my feeling at the time was that even if true, it's not really such a terrible thing. I mean, remember, there was a lot of violence. This is an ancient church. It was almost burned down. And suddenly there was talk that the president was in a funk. He had disappeared. He was hiding in the basement. And there was a need to show that, basically the rioters were not in control. So even if the worst came to the worst, and this was all true, that they cleared the path just for photo op, he said, well, okay, it happens. When you have a crisis of legitimacy, let's say, the elected leader has to make an appearance and show, government is still functioning. The president is still functioning. And I think that, it wasn't such a bad thing. The hysteria and was so completely ridiculous. But again, it was like anything that is bad for Trump is therefore good. Any lie and you smear, that's great, because it'll hurt Trump's prospects for re-election. And a lot of that is what happened last summer was geared towards that. Let's have as much violence, let's have as much turmoil, chaos as possible, because it weakens Trump. It shows that Trump isn't really in control. That is what was driving this.
Well, yeah, I mean, what they did all summer was glorify violence and looting. Okay, and it's a form of reparations. Oh my God! I mean, destroy small and medium-sized businesses owned by people of color. Good going for reparations. Okay, right. No, I mean, but this is the way this ideology works. The left's violence is legitimate. The state's use of force is illegitimate. That church is federal property. Okay, it is. The police have an obligation to protect it. Okay, and you're absolutely right. When you cede that to the mob, the appetite comes with the eating. Right. All right, and that's what they want. They wanted to say Trump is hunkered down. He's afraid of the people. They're fueling up Air Force One. He's flying out to a third world country. I mean, Jim Acosta said as much when he left office. Okay, that's the media lens here. And, I always regret the loss of life, obviously, but if there's violence and, of course, if there's destruction. I mean, that church is a national treasure. You don't even have to be religious. It's a national treasure. I've seen it. It's beautiful. Okay. So it's, Kto kogo. That's what it is. Whom. Okay. And that was what they wanted to put out. And when I came across the results, I'm sure you weren't surprised. I wasn't surprised. I was just waiting for, will the story ever really be told?
Right. No, yeah.
That's the only surprise for me, that it was told.
That's right. But it's fascinating. I mean, you touched on this a moment ago about these double standards, where here the president makes an appearance to show government is functioning, the mob is not in control, and there's howls of indignation in the media. January the 6th, they're still tearing their hair out. My God, this was a threat against democracy. This was a threat against the functioning of government. Well, there was a 4-hour hiatus while all the senators and Congress people dived under their desks and behind the sofa in an absolutely shameful act of cowardice. But it was 4 hours. That's all it lasted. And there's still this hysteria. My God, government was out of control and had ceded power to the mob. So I mean, the hypocrisy is just so rampant.
Don't worry, folks. The deep state was still in control. Okay.
Yes.
You don't need Sandy Ortiz to run the government. Believe me, okay?
Right.
I mean, here's a person that is a firebrand from the left, and she won't do jack shit for her agenda, okay?
Right.
I mean, it's like, there's a bill for universal health care in the House of Representatives, but the Democrats won't vote on it. Oh my God. But they proposed the bill, but they won't vote on it because it could hurt the cause.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So George, don't run for office because you might get elected. I mean, huh? But that's, but this is the whole logic of this whole thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, just as an aside, I don't know if you saw it, but there's apparently thousands and thousands, 10,000 hours of what happened during that 4-hour period.
Yes.
Chewbacca guy, I finally saw him. I'm paraphrasing everyone, we need to march peacefully, peacefully. And the camera goes up. It's a great camera shot, actually. Right. And it's going up. And here's Chewbacca guy. Looks great, okay? Right. We have to march peacefully.
Right. That's right. I saw that as well. There's even more sinister footage. I don't know whether you've seen it, of the people who are breaking the door down, using the stars and stripes to break it down. They don't look like Trump supporters to me. They were all, wearing black
backpack.
Exactly, all black and everything. And these people, they revere the flag. They wouldn't use the flag as a battering ram. So maybe Antifa, or it may just be agents provocateurs. Again, the deep state had thoroughly infiltrated this and was there. Why? And
well, on the day after, when they invented, it was a white supremacist riot, which like knocked me down with a feather. Right. And then you and I suggested the possibility that we have someone that is infiltrated, and I still believe that because of the reason you just said. Just because the casuality of people walking around, kind of taking pictures, if you're involved in a criminal enterprise, why in the world would you take a selfie of yourself?
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. And you can hear from the crowd, the crowd are telling them to stop doing this. They're ordering, don't do this, don't, no Antifa. They're actually shouting, no Antifa. That was, they knew that the people who were using the flag in order to, as a battering ram to get in, were not Trump supporters. So was this Antifa that really, or just simply agents provocateurs?
Or George,
but it looks a very...
Yeah. I don't know if I will say it, but I think you'll understand what I'm implying. What's worse than Antifa? The state.
Yeah, I think so. I think.
I mean, if you look back, Chicago in 1968, I don't remember the number. Please don't quote me on it, but something like 1 in 5 of the protesters had connections with the authorities. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's a classic. I mean, it's always been the case that the police infiltrate the revolutionary organizations, and it's always the police who are the loudest. Yeah, let's use violence. Yeah, let's burn this building down. Yeah, let's put a bomb. Let's put some gunpowder. Always. The one who's urging the most violence, that's the police agent provocateur.
And we, Ashley Babbitt, her husband started legal proceedings. Why in the world? I mean, can anyone explain to me why you won't release the officer's name? Right. Okay, because you know who was on the roster. You know who was at work. Right. I have to assume that they recovered the bullet that killed this woman. So all the guys at work, bring in your guns, just test. I mean, nobody wants to fess up. No one wants to identify, but the gun doesn't lie. Bring in your firearm and we'll do a forensic study. Right. Okay? It's easy. Why? I don't work for the FBI.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And that, remember the explanation was why the DOJ wasn't bringing any criminal charges against him. It was such a convoluted expression, full of double negatives, precisely in order to confuse anyone. We can't be sure that he wasn't acting in good faith in self-defense. So because we can't be sure,
can we ask him?
Yeah, quite so. maybe that's the yes, exactly. Maybe you should that's why you use the the criminal justice system to ascertain, whether that's the case. Yeah,
No, but George, look at over the last 12 months. This war on cops all across the country, and then you have a cop that does kill an innocent person, and you don't want to know what happened.
No, exactly. Yeah.
What?
That's right. Exactly. Well, we can't be sure. Oh, well, okay, that's fine. Perhaps you should do that with all cops. Well, I shot the suspect, but we can't really be sure that he didn't really feel that he was threatened. Okay, good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, they're acting as if this happened in a dark alley in a residential community at 2:00 in the morning. As far as I know, this place was packed full of people, okay? And nobody saw anything? Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Or do you have videotape of it and you're not releasing it? Why?
That's it. So this is very interesting because there's, I think, 14,000 hours of footage. None of it is being released. And you can be sure that if the footage was really damning of Trump's followers, it would have been released. So you can be sure the fact that they're sitting on it and refusing to release it, know that it really isn't. It's not.
Well, it means they don't.
They want to demonstrate.
But it also means they don't have a real case.
No, which is why they keep postponing. Oh, we need more continuance, and these judges just happily signing off. The prosecutors, we need a few more months.
Well, I suppose I wouldn't be surprised at the upcoming summit that Biden wants. I suppose Sergei Lavrov would be in the right stead and saying, well, what about the constitutional rights of these people that are being held, some in cases in solitary confinement without being charged? I think that's a violation of your constitution. You might want to check into that, Tony.
So I think so. Your constitution, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and you can go through the list of all the different.
I think we should take this to the Security Council.
Right.
Okay. I mean, if you're a good faith actor, Mr. Secretary, it should go to the Security Council.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. All right, Peter. We'll be keeping our focus as customary on the great performance by the media. We've got plenty there. Where can we find us?
We're on local, so please type in thegaggle.locals.com. And as far as I know, there's a tip jar there. We like tips a lot.
We really do.
We live off of tips, by the way.
We live off tips.
I got to feed this little guy here. Exactly. So that's the Buddy tip jar.
That's the Buddy, exactly. Buddy. There's no tips. Buddy doesn't get to eat, and look at that adorable face. So we're also on Rumble. Look us up there. And if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.